The administration wants to quadruple nuclear. The speed of pace that they're moving.
It seems like they're more invested in uranium than we are.
There is uranium out there, but can it be brought on in significant pounds between now and 2040? Most of those mines have not been built. Most of those mines can't be built.
Hello and welcome back to The Next Big Rush. I have here with me a favorite of the show. Every time I bring him on, people go wild because of his insights and also just the amount of news that he's able to keep on top of. Always, well, a great honor to have you, Steve Mueller, aka Gossip Central for Uranium. Welcome to the
show. Thanks for having me, Fabi. It's good to see you. So we were talking privately about Section 232 and a lot of other government catalysts that we have expected in the past to be really good for our investments or speculations and did not work out. And we're kind of burned by it.
I remember that was my expectation whenever, and this is several years ago, right? On Trump's first term, people started talking about it. And to us, it made sense. I think that most mining investors are either more to the right of the political spectrum or libertarians. And we automatically believe that, Biden administration is going to be bad for everything mining. Trump administration is going to be good for everything mining. But the first Trump administration was a whole lot of nothing, at least for me, and the bets that I made based on that. I thought he's going to go all in on nuclear. We're going to ignore the salmon fishing in Alaska and be producing copper and gold and all sorts of things. Like, it is on, right? And then absolutely nothing happened. So it seems like now it's different. As an American, you can say whatever the heck you want. I will hold back a little bit because, it's not within my right. But what's happening? How's this different?
Well, we want to quadruple nuclear, and last time we were talking about how Kazakhstan was kind of nationalizing some of their assets quietly, and now we see the Trump administration. They call it strategic public-private partnerships, but what it kind of seems like to me is a little bit like bribes. Like, oh, we're not going to tariff you, tech company, if you manufacture here, or if you bring me a little statue with a gold base, or I don't know. There's a lot of investments with his kids will invest in something, and then we see the administration kind of green light something that was banned, or green light something that wasn't happening and make it happen, and all of a sudden his kids are much richer, and so. I don't want to play politics. I don't care for politicians, and that's not my point. My point is, how can we invest in this and do well for ourselves? They said that they want to the administration wants to quadruple nuclear, and we all knew that they would have to in order to outgrow the monetary inflation and debt collapse we have to. Really, the only way to do that is to devalue your currency or to increase production and GDP. And so to increase production and GDP, they're going to need a lot of power for AI. They're going to need a lot of power for infrastructure, a lot of power to start manufacturing things here again, which has been the point of the tariffs. And we got burned bad by Section 232 a couple of years back, right? Like, we all thought it was gonna moon us, and it did not. But now we see things like General Matter having a public-private partnership with the Department of Energy, and they're going to rebuild, refit, renovate Paducah laser enrichment facility. Gaseous centrifuge enrichment technology at Paducah in Kentucky. And they're putting I think $1.5 billion into that. They just did a big deal with MP Materials for rare earth magnet stuff. They just announced, I think yesterday, that they're going to put $1 billion towards critical minerals. And I think what they mean by that is probably magnets, maybe some of the heavier rare earths. So maybe that benefits energy fuels. Maybe it benefits like Stillwater critical minerals. I don't know, but we will probably see signs before it happens. They've tried to not they will front run the market, but they try not to let us run the market by keeping things private. And um, but part of the private things I wanted to talk about was I think a lot of the tech companies, whether it's Bill Gates, TerraPower, or Intel, or any of the big seven, I think that they are tired of waiting on utilities to build what they want, and they're tired of the government to doing what they want. So they're kind of pushing it, and they will use their politicians that they own and lobbyists that they own to get things done. So like Bill Gates has used the government to test reactors for him and to get fuel for him. But then privately, his teams have been saying we're not going to be able to rely on them for fuel. And so they searched high and low over the world with fuel, and all they found was ASPI. I'm not saying I own some ASPI. I'm not pushing that company right now. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the privates, because of their timelines, they are going to be more impatient, and I think they make things happen. And so I think you come into the the big seven tech facilities. They tried to buy nuclear power behind the wire with 3 Mile Island, and they're trying to get Dwayne Arnold started up, and they're trying to do all these deals to work with utilities to get nuclear power, but I don't think it's happening fast enough for them. And so I think that they will start working with the government and working with other people, whoever they can, just to get things done. And I think we're seeing the chief of staff at the Department of Energy going along with this. It's an entirely different Department of Energy than we've ever seen. Like the speed of pace that they're moving, what they're announcing constantly. It seems like the news flow, like Fabi and I were just saying, like it's too much. Like I can't keep up with this. Like there's just new things every other couple of days.
And on social media, they've just gone wild. It seems like they're more invested in uranium than we are, and just going full out like nuclear. Sometimes I have to double check to make sure it's not a fake account, because it sounds like a fake account with the amount of excitement and enthusiasm that they bring to the tweets about their nuclear moves. You mentioned something there that I need to comment on this.
Please.
You said that Trump, and I mean, this is verifiable. If they want to sue us, they'll sue us, whatever. Doesn't matter. That the Trump family is basically doing their business, front running the market, and then a la Nancy Pelosi, but on a bigger scale, making the most of the changes that they know are happening because of their connections. Mm-hmm. Do you blame them? Well, maybe, but I don't pay taxes in the US, so what can I do? I can try to profit from it, and then you guys can take care of that for us. I have seen some wild posts about gold recently, about the administration actually coming out and considering, re-rating gold. Now, obviously, the big question for us investors is, would that re-rate be at market, or would that re-rate be at what has historically happened, to cover for the wild money printing that has gone on for the last, who knows how many years, since 71, we've been off the gold de facto standard. Mm-hmm. Is this, I mean, when I read this, I'm like, okay, this is like the ultimate gold bug's dream. This is the stuff that people used to talk about 10 years ago, like one day this is going to happen. And now it is a possibility. Do you think that they are going to actually re-rate gold at a much higher price than what we have now? Or do you think that it's just going to be an accounting event to cover, market prices and then be done?
Greg Hemke covered this really well as Sprott Money. So I want to give credit to him since I'm about to paraphrase what he was saying. But Besant is using the Secretary of Treasury Besant is using very, very specific language. And he said, and it's very careful legal language, he is not going to revalue gold. He's going to basically market to market. And so I think it's at like $42 or something stupid right now. And so he's not going to do what FDR did and take it from $20 to $35, $36, whatever overnight. I think that they market to market. So instead of $42, they say it's $3,400, and then whatever the COMEX settles every week or every quarter, we'll just settle it there. I don't think they're going to buy and sell because there's a rule in the U.S. legal system that says if you have to sell gold, the only way you can sell it is to pay down debt. And I don't think they want to pay down debt. I think they want to devalue the debt. And so I think what they will do to benefit Trump's kids and probably you and me if we front run them, is they market to market and they say it's $3,400 this quarter or this year or whatever, instead of 42. And then they use that budget neutral balance sheet improvement to free up a couple billion to buy Bitcoin. So I think they will buy Bitcoin. I think they will add to the strategic reserve. And then I think what they will do with this is that will cause both gold and Bitcoin to go up. And so as gold goes up, they will use the stable coin system to drive people to put money in stable coins. Those stable coins are backed by treasuries. This will create demand for treasuries. And so they will get Americans to remonetize the debt because right now the Russians and the Chinese are not buying our debt. And so I think that they will use American citizens to devalue their own debt by getting us to buy Bitcoin and gold. Yeah, so it's just a new tax, essentially, and it's going to devalue debt, essentially. But I think it does it slow enough that the system doesn't collapse. Whereas if we maybe said, okay, gold's at $40,000 an ounce or $10,000 an ounce or something far above where it's at now, and we're honest about the devaluation of debt, I think it would move things too much at once. It would be too much for the system to handle. And I think banks and it wouldn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, the system.
So I think
because of the speed of implementation, it would be too much for it to handle.
No, it still may be too much. I don't know that this works because maybe enough people figure out what they're doing and start shorting the dollar or shorting treasuries and going long gold and Bitcoin. I don't know, but it seems to be that's what the plan is, I guess.
Okay, so what's a small investor to do, with this scenario? Is there anything actionable from this?
I think you only save in gold and silver, maybe platinum. If you want capital outside of the banking system that's controlled by the government. And I think if you want gains, you buy the smaller gold producers with a lot of cash flow and a lot of reserves that maybe weren't good at $1,800 an ounce or $2,000 an ounce, but at $3,400 an ounce, they're making plenty of money. And so I think the easy thing is just probably like the gold juniors that are producing. Yeah. You were telling me not too long ago that you were buying Norsemont, I think.
Yeah. What about Bitcoin?
I think you buy Bitcoin too. But I think the volatility on that's pretty high. And maybe to monitor that, you buy one of the treasuries that sells the volatility of Bitcoin and pays like a 9% dividend or whatever, which is better than the 2 or 3% the bank's going to give you on a checking account.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you probably still keep some cash on the sidelines because I think at times it's going to be pretty chaotic. You don't want to get washed out so probably not much leverage. Yeah.
You
never know when a new tariff sends the market crazy.
I mean, one tweet is enough for anything to happen to any asset. So you got to be plugged in and expect absolutely anything and everything. We're recording this in mid-August, and the WNA Symposium, the Nuclear Symposium, is coming up in early September. What do you expect this fall for uranium and its equities?
I think the Nuclear Fuels Working Group report, we're hearing rumors that are reliable that the different groups within that are fighting and arguing pretty passionately. Um, I think that the producers and their representatives probably want the truth told a little bit more and want people to not add in things like fertilizing tails like the IEA recommends, because that's just not going to happen between now and 2035 in any meaningful, poundage. Uh, and nor, and then, or maybe shale deposits and, countries like there is uranium out there, but can it be brought on in significant pounds between now and 2040 when we have, like what, 2 billion pounds that we need between now and then? Most of those mines have not been built. Most of those mines can't be built.
Contracts.
Uh, Between now and 2035, maybe by 2040 they could. Um, so I think the producers want a little bit more of the truth to be told. And right now, I think Orano and the utilities and the state-owned actors are saying, "No, don't make it worse for us." And so I don't expect much truth to come out from WNA, but UXC and some of the others, Trade Tech, Energy, Intel, have been trying to tell the utilities like, you guys need to get to the term market. And right now they're buying, they're buying from the French, they're buying from the Russians, they're buying from the Chinese. They're not buying feedstock. They're not buying uranium yet. That will come. And the longer that they delay, the higher the price is going to go. Because right now, even Maduela and Niger, like you're going to have to, even the lowest grade deposits in the worst countries are going to have to get built. And we're to the point now where I think maybe if we don't want blackouts in nuclear reactors, which nobody wants, like I don't want that, you don't want that. But in order to prevent that, I think they're going to have to buy either yellow cake or splat at a large premium, because there's simply not enough pounds that can be mined in time. And so I think once we see that, and maybe a nation state gets involved. I know the U.S. can't take over splat because it's Canadian, but maybe they could arrange a loan at a really high interest rate, or something. So I think once we start seeing, I think we see, I'm not saying this year or next year, but I think over the next couple of years, we see some, I hate the word panic, but I think we see some urgency
I love
to
the word
buy
panic. It makes
fuel.
for very easy thumbnails on YouTube, Steve. Help me out here.
I think I don't know where they're going to get it. They don't know where they're going to get it. They keep talking about ridiculous things like phosphate tails in Morocco and Brazil, or phosphate tails and fertilizer tails in Florida. And I've talked to all those companies in all those countries, and they're like, no, that's not really profitable for us. And like in Brazil, like they're not going to get the permits anytime soon, and they know that, and they've been very honest with, like, their investor relations have been very honest about where they are. You know,
I think it's a sign of the times when the working groups within the WNA are fighting over this, allegedly. Because it goes to show how much I'm going to get flack for this, but whatever, some of the entities in this particular industry have been either leveraged to or have their whole existence based on, I guess, facilitating fuel buyers' purposes and goals, right?
Yeah.
There are players in this industry. We have to come to terms with that there are certain companies whose existence is to make sure that fuel buyers get what they want, because they're the paying clients. And if your information is going to hurt your own clients, you are being predatory to your own self, your own existence as a company. Nobody wants to do that. So hint, hint, nudge, nudge, when things are reported, at times they're reported in a way to make it seem like the water is completely calm and, there's nothing going on underneath. There are no sharks in the water. It's just, pure and calm. when underneath the surface, like it is mayhem, and you can almost predict where the market's going because of the actual numbers behind it. I mean, it is heartbreaking the amount of development companies in the uranium space that have been gearing up since 2020, 2021, 2022. Like they've been pushing really hard, spending a lot of money, raising a lot of money, advancing their projects and gearing up for a bull market that happened in the equities for a while, and then it died off, right? And now they can't raise the money that they need to advance anything. The market isn't giving them the prices to do any of those things, whether it's financing, whether it's advancing their projects, whatever it is that they need. And it's almost like we're at a standstill, where you look at the numbers that we're producing, you look at the numbers that we're consuming, the math is way off, the cupboards are ever bare, and you know that it is basic supply and demand. There is no other way but for the price of uranium to go up, unless there is a wild, wild, wild event that I can't even imagine. Because every time I try to run through, different situations in my head, I can't really pinpoint something that would kill uranium more quickly than, the demand that is coming in the next couple of years. So what is a uranium investor to do here? Is this a time for maybe looking into gold and silver stocks that are actually moving and catching a bid, and maybe waiting for those to pan out and put some profits in uranium? Or do you think that the time is now to beef up your uranium holdings? I know this is a tough question because I don't even know the answer to this one. That's why I'm throwing it out to you.
I have pretty equal exposure to both. And I'm not much of an advisor. The smarter people that I follow, they've taken profits in the gold royalties and the senior gold producers that have moved pretty well. And they're buying the gold juniors that haven't moved well, and they're buying uranium companies that have a chance to produce between now and 2035. And I think that's the smart move, because you see UEC finally moved, and I think some of that was a capital rotation from Cameco, moved really well, even outdid Sput. And then you see UEC now move, and Energy Fuels move. And I think we'll start to see, we just heard this week that that billionaire woman from Australia just bought a bunch of next gen. And I don't know that she loves, next gen above the other deposits. I think that's the liquidity, just like, who else can she buy? Well, it's kind of, USC's already moved, so you buy next gen. But I think any of them, you're going to do well, I would think. I think we have a strong move because we're only at 32-ish million pounds this year in term contracting. There's probably something we haven't heard about yet, so maybe we're at 35 or 40, but a lot of the RFPs in the market are going to go unanswered, have not yet been answered, will not be answered. Korea wanted very, very small amounts. And I think they were testing the toes in the water, but they put these ridiculous terms out there, and they're not going to get answered, just like a couple of years ago they weren't answered. And so I think the rest of the year, we've been burned by the whole term seasonality, because it doesn't happen every year like we hope. But I think we do get some pretty strong seasonality this year into next year. And I think some of the hedge funds and smart fast money that took us from 50 to 106 and then shorted us from 106 back down to 60 or whatever. I think those hedge funds, they go back long after this. And I think they've been accumulating recently. We see signs in the technical analysis charts that they've been accumulating again. They haven't put options and leverage on that I can tell, but they will. And like we're talking about public and private partnerships with the government, I think the better politically connected companies like UEC I wouldn't surprise if they do some M&A, and maybe they buy other assets here in the United States, but maybe they also buy something like Glow because they need near-term pounds. And Glow is stupid, stupid cheap. And like, yes, it's in
What's my
Niger.
next question? You read my mind. Is Glow cheap enough at these levels that you can't not own it?
Uh,
I know, hold your
yeah. I think all the cheap ones though, they never seem is it cheap enough? Yes. Is it as cheap as it's going to be over the next 2 months, 3 months? It probably gets cheaper. We probably get diluted again. Shareholders probably get diluted again. But also, like, it's at the attractive levels to where I think somebody that has money, like UEC or UROI or somebody else, just buys them because it's just so cheap. I mean, they have a ton of exploration upside potential. The mine is being built and is staffed. Um, they already have tails above ground that can be put through a circuit. Like,
What about the risk of nationalization in Niger?
yeah, I don't think so because they really, really need Glow to produce it because they can't make it. They nationalized a gold miner that owed them tons and had been a deadbeat. And they nationalized Orano's assets because Orano was being predatory. And so it's terrible optics for the Western media, and it gets reported as such. Um, and the current junta, man, they really keep shooting Glow and themselves in the foot. I think out of fear more than anything. I don't think they're trying to be malicious. I think they're just afraid and making bad decisions. But um, whether a new government gets installed or the current government just decides to be less self-destructive, I think we see some change over the next couple of months. Um, Not that it gets any better for Glow shareholders anytime soon, but I think by the end of the year, whether it's a JV with China, whether it's a takeover by UEC, or whether it's the U.S. bank, finally, I think we probably get some sort of resolution by the end of the year. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we finally get
I
resolution?
don't know. I think the fear of nationalization is really, really, really hurting them.
Hmm.
And there's always a what if in the back of my head because like I personally went and met with the former minister of mines in Niger. And when you believe that a whole country is one way because of one person you've met, and then that completely changes, it's almost like somebody literally pulled the rug from under your feet, and then you're like, okay, everything I thought I knew about this, I thought I knew, but it, wasn't solid enough to maintain. And so it's like there is nothing in my head in Niger that could not happen, including the risk of nationalization or that friendly nationalization that's really to hand it over cheaply to the Chinese or the Russians or whoever bids the highest. There is nothing in my head because it was so um, surprising to me at the time when it happened and so sudden
Mm.
that there is nothing that to me is off the table when it comes to Niger. So I'm just watching. But yeah, I mean, if they can make a mine out of this at this level, it's so cheap. It's asset wise versus what we see the market cap. It's a screaming buy, but I guess it's that bet that you make willing to lose it all. So if you take a small portion of your portfolio and throw it all on black, then that's that portion for sure, because the upside is definitely there if they can survive this. It's either all or nothing. Um,
Yeah.
what have you seen in the market that you think is either a screaming buy or something that you believe most people haven't caught on yet?
Hmm. That's a good question. I would love for we have some really intelligent friends and viewers, I would love for them to leave some comments and tell us what they want to do. I've just been looking at the cash flows at some of the gold and silver miners, and then some of the other resource plays like molybdenum, um, some of those others that aren't well known, don't have analyst coverage. I think a small group of smart investors that just do their own research cooperatively can find some of those deals hidden early enough, before Goldman Sachs or Red Cloud starts covering it. And so yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's a couple rare earth companies I'm looking at, and I know that the with the clays and stuff, there's so much silicon and so much strip that happens that it's kind of hard to tell what's worth what,
Yeah,
because I
the
don't know what they can.
metallurgy of those projects is so tough. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not a chemist or geologist or meteorologist, whatever, so I can't really value those companies, just with my limited knowledge. Um, but we need a lot of critical minerals, and I was reading the press release about uh, Texas, the governor, former Energy Secretary Perry, and governor in Texas. They're going to put 11 gigawatt campus in Texas in Amarillo. Um, And I think we see more states do that and take the lead, because a lot of these state governments get pretty competitive. Once it's approved by the government, then it's a race to see who can get funding and spend the government's money, and then also build something that's going to build jobs for your citizens, right? And so I think part of the quadrupling of nuclear is seeing individual states follow Texas's lead and just building massive nuclear campuses. Um,
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm going to watch on how to play that, but I think there's going to be a lot of infrastructure companies, wireline companies. We need the jobs, and so I think we're just going to be watching those closely and just trying to examine that. But I'm really curious to see what our friends have to say in the comments and stuff, because I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, let us know.
they come up with good stuff.
Let us know, because some of you guys have really great insights and great ideas. Like I get a lot from my subscribers and just people writing me and saying, "Hey, have you seen this? Have you looked at that?" By the
Yeah.
way, I think that maybe an idea is looking at who is involved in the extraction of rare earths in the US would be probably worthwhile, because it's the old adage, you're selling the picks and shovels instead of actually trying to find the gold. And so if there are any companies out there, then let us know in the comment section, companies that are working on solving this issue, because it is an issue. I've been looking privately at a couple of rare earth deals, and let me tell you, like, I am not an expert by any means in any of this, but it is a different layer of complexity when you're talking about rare earths. There's so many different elements, and sometimes a deposit looks good on the surface for what they have, but unlike gold or copper or something a little bit less complex, the fact that it's a really high grade, big deposit means nothing if there is something else associated with it, which can happen with gold and copper, but with rare earths, it's the most common thing. It's like there's stuff associated with it that actually makes your grade not worth what you think it's worth ultimately. So
Yep.
anybody working on processing, extraction, tech, then let us know here at the bottom, please. And if it's a public company, even better, because then we can, make our bets. All right, Steve, any last words to longtime investors and new investors that are going to be watching this and thinking, hey, maybe I should throw some money at these wild ideas of betting against government dilution of fiat currency, or government decisions about the lack of infrastructure build outs that should have happened, when I was a baby, and they didn't. And now it's catching up to us, and we need more energy, and we can't really get it from anywhere.
Yeah, just that I think we're in a fourth turning, and we're going to have a large amount of change to society here, globally too, but especially here in the United States. And with that, like, yes, I think investing and speculating on this is going to be helpful to your bottom line, and that's important, to take care of yourself and your family. But don't neglect the spiritual taxes that we're paying too on all this change. And I would just, encourage somebody to spend some time spiritually enriching yourself and putting yourself in into those things as well. Like, it's not money's great and money's helpful, and it can buy you time and it can buy you a lot of things and achieve a lot of good purposes, and nothing wrong with it. But um, spend some time looking at your soul and your spirit and how to do that too. And always reach out to me or Fabi about that stuff too. Like, we're always open to talk about that. So pour into your families, pour into yourself, in all the ways.
Yeah. And seek Jesus. Just a hint.
Yep.
Figure it out. I don't know if you've seen that movie that calls for, the whole libertarian movement. And kind of the soundbite of it is, who's John Galt? I think we should start a campaign, who's Jesus, so that people can actually start looking him up and actually reading the stuff that is mind-blowing and pure fire. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming on to the show. Always a pleasure. I'm partly excited and partly still very overwhelmed by everything that's happening. Hopefully by the next time we catch up, we'll be in the fall, and then some of that contracting will start showing up in the uranium equities. Fingers crossed. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Fabi. Bless you.